could do that much in one morning, what else can I do if I just consistently like put it out there what I'm going to do? You know, maybe gamify it a little bit for myself, like set a time for how long it's going to take me and then go for it. Like I've knocked off so many things. I've started my first ever group coaching program from this, which is something I've been terrified to do, but like secretly wanting to do, but terrified to do for, you know, ever really.
Mm-hmm. Guys, it's Athena from Unrestricted, and I am super excited to introduce you to Hannah Diment, who just finished up the coaching program, and she is willing to share a little bit about her experience to give you guys a taste for what it's like to go on the Get Unrestricted coaching program. So Hannah, hello, thank you for being here. How are you?
Hi, happy to be here. Yeah, really happy to be here. Good, very good. Post-holidays, getting back in the groove of life and healthy habits.
Yeah, new year, new start. So tell me about you. Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, well, I am from Minnesota, which is where I am right now at my parents' house for the holidays, but I live all over the world and travel doing massage therapy, circus performing, and more recently breath work and singing. I've done a variety of investing over the years, both real estate investing and more traditional routes with investing, as well as some venture capitalism, which has some funny stories out of it.
And I'm really curious to hear what made you feel like you wanted to get more productivity skills.
Yeah, so wow, 2020 was a crazy year of transition. And I think myself, like so many, started to transition from one career path to another. And also, I have my hands in so many projects at one time that I was uh, filled with inspiration, but finding trouble seeing any of them through to completion or managing the balance of where to start, which to dive into. And so, yeah, I saw your program and I can tell just by your story and the way that you went from the corporate world using the productivity tools to creating just this incredible lifestyle for yourself. And I've been in the world of working for myself. I know how to make money. However, like structuring time and managing projects and building a business with more people in it than just myself is something that's new to me. I was drawn to Unrestricted because I want to level up to the next project, which is bigger than just me, you know, working on my own, and it has more moving parts. And yeah, learning how to manage all those moving parts efficiently and in a fun way.
So you said in a fun way, which is interesting. So I'm curious, you know, what was some of the more surprising things that you learned about yourself, like during the coaching program?
Yeah, wow, so much. Well, I realized that I was really resistant to being accountable for my own time, and I was surprised by some of the time tracking activities, and I found them very incredibly useful, actually. I think I was resistant to them because, you know, someone who's spiritual and free and flowing, I really always want to be experiencing this sense of timelessness. However, when you're building something, it's paradoxical, but in order to experience timelessness, I found so much more timelessness once I was able to track my time and see where it was going. So that was incredibly surprising for me, the freedom that came with tracking time and really becoming intimate with my time and resources. Yeah, that was definitely a surprise to me. Gosh, so many things, but that one definitely sticks out.
It's funny because we talked about this, right? Like often the things we're most resistant to are the things that we need the most. And almost it's like self-defeating, like, oh, this thing could be really good for me, but I don't want to do it. And the time tracking exercise is the one that I find people have the most resistance to, because we've been conditioned to think like if we track our time, then we'll be restricted by it, right? But if we look at other areas of our life, if we just completely ignore what's happening with our money, say, you know, there's freedom in like having full visibility over what's going on, you know, and like where
Yeah.
your time is going. There's some stuff that comes up, and I don't know if you can speak to that, like why you ended up feeling like you were resisting it.
Yeah, well, I think so many other programs and techniques and such start with like the big vision, right? But then it doesn't take you to the next step, which is putting down everything that's in your mind here and now. So I think it's really fun to look at the big vision and where you want to be, but it can be daunting to look at where you are right here and now and reconcile some of the things that you haven't been looking at. So for me, that was definitely, I had been avoiding looking at my finances, and I had been avoiding looking at my time, where my time was being spent. And I was just kind of hoping that it would all work out, which was such an interesting strategy to choose. And I really value this about the unrestricted program, is that, you know, I don't know that how long it would have taken me on my own to go into those things, you know, willingly. But it's like I love the freeness of like the levity that unrestricted brings to those exercises of getting it all out there and then being gentle with yourself as you go through it piece by piece. Yeah, it really helped me to look at things that I had been avoiding for a long time, which were pivotal. You know, I found were actually totally paramount to getting to the big vision that had been in a blind spot for me before, that had really been in a blind spot for me. And I love this about working in groups too, that I hear other people in the coaching calls speaking to things that I was feeling but hadn't identified in myself.
Mm.
And that allowed me to go deeper than just sitting on my own and trying to rack my brain about what I was missing. Yeah, the coaching calls were great for that, the live coaching calls.
I love that, because you know, like as much as I try to stay in the here and now with remembering what it's like to be at the beginning stages of this, I've been doing this for a long time. So it's why I want to create groups, because having other people going through similar things, they're going to reflect and you're going to learn from each other just as much, or if not more, in some situations. So the group dynamic is great because it's a safe space of like-minded people all wanting to like up level and experiencing this together.
Yeah, and your group, everyone in the group was from somewhere else in the world. You know, we're from all over the place, and we're all united by a desire to birth a project into the world, whether it was a business or writing a book or, you know, learning new skills that are required to take the next step in something that is important to us in our lives and that we want to build. And yeah, it was really inspiring to be around other people and hear them speaking into those as I was feeling into, you know, that process in myself too. Definitely being in the group was really powerful.
In the start of the program, we began by looking at things that might be holding you back, or things that you were tethered to that you didn't realize, like the underlying things
Yeah.
affecting your productivity. So once we started looking at that, exploring that, like where do you want to go and what are the things that are controlling you, how much did that change your outlook on your own productivity?
Yeah, I think you definitely know, for me, that was a big one. The becoming aware of kind of those insidious things that sap our productivity. So for me, I realized, oh my God, I'm spending so much time on social media. And what am I doing on social media? I am getting sucked into a space where I'm being so unproductive and also getting pulled out of periods of productivity. So yeah, for me, becoming aware of creating the space, a space and time for yourself to dive into like the depths of whatever it is you're working on is a really incredible exercise. I mean, I ended up deleting my Instagram, which I am going to bring back. It's not a forever thing, but it has given me so much more space. So it's nice to know that that's there for me in times of like pushing with creating something. If I really need extra productivity, like cutting out social media and just eliminating it for a period of time altogether. I'm really excited about the things that I have faced and created during the time that I've been in the unrestricted coaching program. It's more movement in the direction that I desire to go than I've had in years.
And why do you think you're taking the steps now? And tell us a bit about it, what you're doing now, if you care to share.
Right. Well, you kind of tricked me with the brain dump into like facing some things I've been hiding. So the brain dump, I the things that came out of the brain dump really forced me to look at some things that I needed to deal with in order to take a step in any direction in my life. So finances underlies everything that we do, right? Especially if we want to build businesses or like be in relationships, all of that, it all ties together. So for me, the big one was looking at things that I had been hiding from with the guidance of someone who has done it themselves, and also in a group where there's a lot of love and acceptance, and kind of gamified the time. It's so funny because I was so resistant to the tracking time, but it actually allowed me to gamify those tasks that I really had been avoiding and power through them. Like things that had been bothering me for months, I powered through in one morning. The morning I did the brain dump, I was like, went for it. And it cleared the path more than the path had been cleared in a long time. And from there, I felt really jazzed up and courageous enough to, and it also gave me confidence and a feeling of having my own back and like being confident that I have this and I can do this. And if I could do this in a morning, what else can I do if I just consistently, if I could do that much in one morning, what else can I do if I just consistently like put it out there what I'm going to do, maybe gamify it a little bit for myself, like set a time for what I think how long it's going to take me, and then go for it. Like I've knocked off so many things, and I've started, this is probably a question you'll get to later, but like I've started my first ever group coaching program from this, which is something I've been terrified to do, but like secretly wanting to do, but terrified to do for, ever really. So
years. Yeah. I mean, as long as I known you, and that was something you wanted to do before we even met. And, as you said, like clearing the space for these things and gaining confidence. And it's amazing, like the little tiny things we can do to give ourselves enormous amounts of confidence. And in that half of a morning that you spent clearing those things out, if you think of all the time and energy that went into worrying about them for the months that you weren't dealing with it, right? So it's a perfect demonstration of how actually taking control makes you feel free. It just frees up so much more energetically, feeling like we're in a good place with the finances. It frees up all the mind space so that we can, be brave and go into the things that maybe we haven't done before.
Yeah. And it just made me a nicer person to be around too. Like I did dishes for my family willingly and like helped out people because I just felt like I had already done like 10 times more than I thought I was going to do that day. Like it improved like relationships. And since that week, actually, finances have really become something that I schedule in as nourishment. And I love that reframe of productivity to nourishment, because nourishment is such like a feminine, yin, beautiful, flowing quality. And, productivity is usually seen as like kind of a hammering, sort of really masculine, takes a lot of outward pushing energy. But really, you know, even though we use that word, it takes on a completely different feeling in this, you know, in this group coaching, of being like a true source of nourishment. And it like really has become kind of like my little sidekick to moving quickly on the path that I want to be moving on. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So when you came into this, you know, you're really good at like doing the feel good stuff for yourself, like the things that you enjoyed, and then kind of struggled with putting structure in place around the things that you wanted to do, like, you know, that almost like progression or things with maybe accountability or responsibility. So just talk me through that process from like the start to where you feel like you're at now, and how implementing some of these structures or tools has it helped? Has it made it better?
Yeah. So at first, like some of the exercises where we schedule in nourishment, like, you know, I'm so pro nourishment, but for me, I realized I had a really limited scope on what nourishment was. I get massages, I work out, I play music all day, every day, do the things that make me feel good. But before the course, I was in quite a bit of like pain around not knowing how to make the steps towards the big things I wanted in life. So, like the nourishment that you'd think of classical nourishment, I was doing every day. I mean, I bought myself a plane ticket to Scotland and was living in an Airbnb on the ocean by myself. Like, bought myself a harmonium, learned how to play the harmonium, and would just sing and play the harmonium every day. And I was kind of feeling in pain about not knowing, you know, if I could do all that and nourish myself so deeply, but I didn't know how to take steps to the big dream, which for me is, you know, creating a community around singing and creating a space of safety around singing for others to partake in and be in too. You know, it's kind of that, how do I go from me alone in this Airbnb to like me and a group of people leading song? So many steps, and how do I get there? That, yeah, having that big vision and then having the tools introduced along with that vision motivated me to try things that I hadn't tried before, though it made a difference for me to hold my own vision alongside with trying the tools. So what I found was that it really relieved a lot of like the pressure I was feeling around the buildup of not knowing the next step, and just the craziness of having a desire and the pressure that builds up when you don't know how to take the next step or what the next step even is, because it's just so big and so it's in a distant land with people you don't know yet, you know. It's like what even do I do next? The tools help me to ground into where I am right now, which I wasn't grounding into. It helped me ground into the reality of where I was, and then to really pare it down to actionable steps that started to relieve the pressure. And then it gets addictive, right? You start to relieve the pressure, and then you start moving, and then you get some momentum and you start moving faster. And like next thing you know, you're putting an offering out, and you know, it's just like the fact that all those steps could be taken just a little bit over a month of time, that kind of going from a space of like indecisive, pressurized feeling to sort of a very space of levity and motion towards the thing that you want, and clarity and motion. And that was a huge thing that your tools specifically gave me. And I'm going to go back to the time tracking again, because that one was a big one for me, and I really didn't expect it to be, and it really has made all the difference. The chunking down and estimating time, and just getting a hold on all of my resources, time and money and motion. It's like created this whole momentum in my life that's real. You know, it's not just thinking about the big vision and vision boarding, which I love to do too, but it's like actually the momentum as well, the actions taken. And I think having accountability of an ongoing weekly program, like knowing you're going to have that call every week, you know, where you're going to see people who are also, you know, you feel like you're inspiring them and you're getting inspired by them, and things that seem like a chore before, now you're excited to tell them that you did it that week. Like, the only people in the world I can brag to about tracking my time are like in this room, and like, you know, and it's like helping us a lot. So it's like a really cool environment to get excited about things that maybe would be, you wouldn't get excited about in the day-to-day with just you and yourself and your cat, whatever, you know. So that it put into motion a lot of excitement around trying new things, implementing them, sharing it in the group, and then seeing the results quickly, really quickly, really quickly. Yeah.
I love that too, because, you know, there's no pressure on anyone to do anything apart from the tasks. And what that ends up doing is it creates momentum, and then everybody that took part in the program is, you know, was also using that inspiration and that momentum to then work on a project. And you got something out there which you've been thinking about and wanting to do and terrified of for a very long time. And you know, I think that's why it's such an important part of this process, is to go deeper and find out like what is actually holding us back, you know, because all the calendars and productivity apps and whatever, you know, the tools don't matter. It's like actually the structure with which we build up and then use those tools. So yeah, I love seeing you guys, you know, take these tools and then apply them to the things outside of the program that are really exciting to you, and you know, just seeing you and hearing the momentum. And then you ran the first session with your group and like got some really amazing feedback too, right?
Yeah, they were impressed by my PDFs. I did the whole organization thing. And I mean, it was cool. It was like I created something with structure and created, you know, structure within the structure, and that's what I've been admiring so much in other people who have architected these beautiful offerings for people, you know. And for me, it's been kind of like, how do I get to a place where I could offer something cohesive and beautifully architected like that, you know, that can hold an organized lesson, which is huge for me because my brain, you know, is all over the place usually. So
everyone's is when they don't go through, you know, this process. Like our brains aren't, you know, they're little 6-year-old children running around wanting structure, which is why we kind of have to automate this stuff, right? But imagine had you just done this offering without going through the process of first getting yourself organized. I'm curious what the differences in feelings, you know, like actually going through that process of organization. What did that give you personally in terms of offering this coaching program?
Wow. Well, so much, because for me, there were new skills that I had to learn in order to even, you know, there were so many steps between me even just getting in front of people. And that included, you know, things on the technological side too, which is like, without the skills to kind of break those down into actionable steps, those are things that in the past have overwhelmed me and where I quit really easily. And having like a grit about not quitting, I think is also fueled by having accountability of being of entering into a program like this. You know, it's like you feel more accountable to the project that you set out to see through. And yeah, I mean, it's a daily practice with this project in particular, to sit down, and every day my brain is bursting with ideas for it. That never changes, right? Like every morning I wake up and my brain is sometimes I wake up like in the middle of the night now and my brain is bursting with ideas for it. So it's really helpful to have the daily practice of the brain dump around those things. And it gets more and more manageable, the brain dump does, right? Like my brain dump now doesn't have like the huge financial block that it did the first time, right? It's like more manageable on a daily basis. But it gives me a clear access point, a clear entry point into going through all those ideas and knowing that I'm going to be able to have them all out in front of me on paper and get the chance to organize them in a meaningful way for people. You know, where before I just have all these ideas and they would just dissipate into the air around me, you know, they wouldn't quite capture them. And in the same way.
It's overwhelming to have ideas, right? Without a structure of like, okay, how do I break this down into something that's actionable, which is what you were explaining, right? Like you still have all the ideas. It's not like your way of thinking or getting inspired or being creative has changed, but what you do with those inspirations and that creativity, now you have a structure for how you can like get it out in front of you and decide how to move forward and how to action it.
And I never thought, you know, that this would become manageable to so quickly to do. You know, it's like I set out to start sharing singing with people, and now I have a group, a weekly group coaching program, and now that's like automated, right? I automated it in a sense where I'm still getting all these ideas and I have space for that, and I'm adding to it as I go, but the structure is automated, that these calls are weekly. So now I'm thinking about like, well, now I feel like I can write the book I've been wanting to write, right? So it's like when I was starting the program, I had all these things that I wanted to do. And I love how you're like adamant about picking one thing to go through the program with. And, you know, at the beginning of it, I kind of was like making such a big deal about what I picked. But it's like, it happened so quickly. Like what I set out to achieve in the first run through happened so quickly that now it's like I can just go through it again and use the same skills and apply it to the next project. And now so much of this that was such a huge thing that I couldn't dominate before. Like I couldn't even begin to climb that mountain. Now I'm like steadily, it's like an automated climb up that mountain. And now it feels accessible to, you know, start another project alongside it, which is really cool. And I think it's a good lesson for me who thinks that everything must be done at once, you know. And really it's like all these things I've been wanting to do for years, but haven't gotten very far on any of them. But just picking one and really focusing on it for just a little over a month, and it's like on its way. And now I can, you know, pick the next thing and apply the same structure and tools to that.
It's momentum, and it's learning a new skill, right? So the more that you apply these tools and techniques to a new project and be able to do that in a streamlined way and then automate it, you know, the better we get at it, the more work we can do in less time, you know? So like the amount of projects that I can do at one time, or the amount of, you know, it's like the amount of time that I work, I don't increase that, you know, I can still, and I still learn and develop, and I'm always looking for like efficiencies and optimizations because, you know, I want to enjoy my life as much as possible too. And I think that's the really important thing. It's like, it's not about expanding more work into your day, right? It's about making the work that you do as impactful and optimized as possible. And the more that we really focus on that, we're doing better work in less time. And then we're getting momentum to take that toolkit and apply it to other things. Because it's like, okay, that was actually a lot easier than I thought. Now I can face this other thing that I thought was like really daunting. Yeah. And you know, like the first draft of my book, 45,000 words, I wrote in 10 days, only writing like 2 to 3 hours a day using this toolkit, right? So it's like, it's totally achievable. It's just about consistency and practice and putting it into place. which is why we pick one thing. So it's not to overwhelm. It's just like, this is an example that you can use and like learn as you go while you're working on something that's important to you, and then be able to use that toolkit and apply it to anything else that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really exciting to see it in real time, how it works when you go for it.
So every week the structure is like we meet, we do a lot of like interactive talking with each other. I teach you guys some content, and then I assign you tasks every week. So tell me about your experience with the tasks, and were they useful or helpful, or what did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, I love the tasks. I love the weekly tasks. I am someone who really takes to direction. You know, I really want just a little bit of direction in life in general, but also like the way that the tasks were broken down were really manageable. I found enormous benefit from them. I found enormous benefit from particularly the tasks to create space through eliminating distractions. And that one really naturally carried over into the rest of my life. That one really profoundly affected me. And then some of the other tasks, it's nice to return to time and time again, like the time exercise and such. But yeah, it's fun to do tasks, right? Especially in a group setting. You know, I like to read books a lot too. And then there's just an added dimension to being in a group and getting to do weekly tasks and come together and kind of talk about progress in that group. Yeah.
So what's in store for 2021? What from the program will you be continuing to integrate into your life?
So much. So 2021, what's in store? Big moves, moving out of the United States again and moving to Mexico, to Tulum, where many alumni of the Unrestricted Coaching Program reside, and to continue the daily exercise of writing everything down, brain dump. I really like to do that every day because it just lets me see, you know, so my brain can feel so busy, and then it could be like only 5 things on the list. It's really disproportionate. The day I first did it, my brain felt like it would take me hours, but it really only took me like 10 minutes to write everything down. And I almost tried to keep writing things down because I wanted there to be more, because it felt like there should be more. So I think that's a really powerful daily exercise for me, to just continually see something that feels like so much inside of me when I put it on paper is actually super actionable and doesn't take much time to address, if any time to address. So that's something I'm definitely going to keep going and doing, because touching in with that on a daily basis has kept big problems at bay, like big kind of insidious building up problems. That feeling of like, oh, I can't look at that. Like I haven't looked at that in 3 months and I like don't want to look at it now. Like that kind of feeling. It's preventative medicine for that feeling, which is an awful feeling, you know, so just to help me stay on top of it through the next big changes, and to really continue to make moves towards the things I'm excited about, like starting live classes in person, and yeah, anything I want to, really. Writing books, that's on the agenda. Yeah. Feel
That's
really
just
empowered.
it. You can do anything you want, right?
Yeah.
And giving yourself the gift of like a structure to be able to do those things is like, it's so freeing, it's so empowering to finally, even if you don't end up doing it in the end, right? Like the fact that you're making moves towards like, this is what I want right now, and this is what I feel like is going to make me happy, to me is the epitome of like unrestricted. Like I am moving towards what I want, and I'm very clear about what I want. Even if we change what we want, it changes, you know, like situations change, locations change, and it gives us more data, and we're like, okay, I actually like that, or I want less of that, or I want more of that. So, you know, even in a lockdown situation, there are tools that you can put in place to still be on that journey, even with all the uncertainty outside of you. I think, you know, it's a lot easier to do it under the confines of home when you don't have all the distractions. Where it starts becoming really interesting is when you're in a place, you know, and I work with a lot of digital nomads, and they struggle with that. I really want to live this life, but also I feel like I need to like do all this time on my business and just like put their butt in a seat for a certain amount of hours. And that's what you need to do, right? So like creating a structure and a system that you can do anywhere in the world and be able to enjoy your environment and your life outside of that is really, you know, the ultimate goal. So now that you've got more of a toolkit and a structure in place, coming somewhere like Tulum, you know, I imagine you'll be able to actually genuinely enjoy it and connect with it and make moves on the things that you want to do rather than staying in that loop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really, that's actually a really big one for me, because I took myself out of community at the beginning of 2020, you know, because I was like, I need to become disciplined and structured. So I went into living by myself. I bought a van and lived by myself in a van for a few months, and then traveled alone for a long time. And that is also not sustainable for me. Like, I'm a social creature, and I want to be able to be around like a community of people without sacrificing. I want to be able to be in a romantic partnership without sacrificing, you know, the projects I'm working on. I want to be in a community of friends without sacrificing the projects I'm working on. So I am excited to test drive this productivity, you know, system in somewhere like Tulum, where it's more exciting than my parents' house in Minnesota. Or Scotland or Ireland. A lot was going on there too, but it was also locked down. So there wasn't, you know, still wasn't the possibilities of the buffet of life.
It's interesting you bring up relationships and friendships and fun. And I wonder if you can talk about your experience of the program and the unrestricted methodology in terms of, you know, I think a lot of people are resistant to productivity because they think it's about control and just being about work. So in terms of the unrestricted method, we actually look at a lot of different areas. So what was your experience in terms of what the traditional view of productivity is versus what you got in this program?
Yeah, well, like I said before, just opening up space inside of my heart that was taken up by hiding from things allowed me to be in better relationships. And also, you know, like, unrestricted is all about like nurturing yourself and putting the things that are most important to your quality of life first. So the whole nourishment week is like scheduling in what nourishes you first before you schedule in finances. And, you know, but now that nourishes me, but, you know, before you schedule in, you know, getting your car detailed, whatever it is, those things that you're like, oh, I need to do that. It's like, you know, it really puts it in perspective. Like, no, first we schedule in our time with our friends, or like our time with our art, like our aerial silks, or whatever it is that really, if the week ends and we didn't do it, we feel like we missed out on a piece of our life. Like, those are the things that, you know, get scheduled in first, which I love about that, because I really do think everything else can fill around those things without much effort. You know, you put those nourishing big things, those soul nourishment things first, and then let everything fill around it. And it really surprised me how much time, you know, how much time there is to get all of it, to address all of it. And it's really the feeling of putting those little things first that don't matter to you, that make you feel like a slave in your life. The things that you need to, when you like sit down and you look at your calendar and you feel like you need to schedule those things that you need to do first. And those are the things that are at the front of your mind. It wears you down as an embodied human soul over time to to see those as the most important things in your life. And yeah, so I love that about Unrestricted, that you identify those things that are most important to you and they go in first. Yeah. Love that.
It's a long-term strategy, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, as entrepreneurs, especially if we're solopreneurs and doing our own projects, if we burn out, that affects our business, it affects our project, it affects the people that we're working with, because we're not giving ourselves. And we've been conditioned to think we need to just give and give and give and work and work and work, when actually, you know, that depletes us. You know, we're running on fumes rather than having a full tank. So, you know, I love seeing people go through that process of deprogramming and rewriting their code around the things that will actually be like the long-term game. And we've all had, you know, experiences with coaches or teachers, and we can tell when they're just kind of like out of control, or they're stressed, or they're like, oh, I'm so busy, you know. And it's like, whoa, you know, like you almost question, like, can I put trust in this person when it's like really clear that they're not taking care of themselves, or they got a lot going on. Like a lot of people that we interact with, we can tell very quickly, like their energy is like just not, it's not chill. They're not taking care of themselves. They seem really stressed, and we absorb the energy of each other and the people that we work with. So, you know, by investing more time into ourselves to really be in a good place, people trust us more. They want to work with us more. We're going to attract more people like that, more good energy into us. And we're going to be able to like sustain our business. And when we start hiring our team are going to feel inspired and like, you know, cared for by us, because we've all had the boss that was like a workaholic and expected the same of us. And we're like, I'm out of here as soon as I can. So
Yeah.
doing all of this now only will impact your business so much better, which is a very counterintuitive way, especially for like Americans and Europeans to think.
Completely. And I mean, it really, it is counterintuitive, and a lot of times I think people kind of look at that and wonder if it's even possible. And it totally is. And it's really exciting to see people who are doing it, because it creates that reality for other people, which is why I do think it's important to go to teachers and coaches who are leading that, because it is something that's being embodied and transmitted in just by being around that person. And there's a sense of safety that you feel when you know, that I've felt more of since I've kind of gotten my ducks in a row with like addressing these things that have been sapping my energy without me looking at them, and to put things that are important to me first. You know, it creates a sense of safety of self too, that's like very nourishing to be in that space. And yeah, I think you're right that growing a team, which I eventually want to do, you know, will be, you nurture the people around you that you're working with and on your team by holding that kind of zen sense of safety, and like you can do it all because, you know, you're taking care of yourself first.
Yeah, and giving them permission to do the same, you know. Like I wanted that so badly from so many places that I worked.
Yeah.
And I realized I had to do it for myself. You know, we talk a lot about boundaries in the program, and, you know, like looking after ourselves first. It may upset some people, especially people that do not look after themselves, but then that creates a space for us to think about, like, what are the people that I want in my life? Where is the place that I want to work? And when we work with or for other people, we want to learn from them. We want to be inspired by them. And we also want to feel valued and cherished. And that happens when we see someone doing that for themselves, because we know that then they're going to make sure that that's the kind of like DNA of the company or the project, right?
Right.
I see this a lot with a lot of you know, startups. Like, you know, they're all like, oh, we're all about our people, and then behind the scenes it's just like work, and then there's really high turnover, and then the company is not going to get anywhere because they like constantly having new people come in that are just getting like burnt out. You know, it starts at the top. It starts with the first person. So
Yeah, Totally. Yeah, it's exciting to imagine a different way of doing it. It makes me
Yeah.
want to be on a team, right? I've
Right.
always shied away from it and worked by myself because, I didn't like the way that it looked in like my parents' workplace growing up, of just the company politics and the way people treated each other. And, that's part of the reason I became a massage therapist, because I thought, I'll work for myself and no one will ever control me in this way. And yet there's so much that you get when you work with other people, and you can scale in such a bigger way and affect more people, in teams and groups too. So just knowing that is like, I love that that's a new paradigm that you're sharing with not only solopreneurs, but people who work in organizations as well, because that's really beautiful to have that possibility of experience.
I had a woman in one of my other coaching programs that quit her job because she wanted to stay in Tulum. And, she had a very successful career back home in Europe, and she quit her job and she's like, nope, I want to stay here. And they came back to her and they're like, okay, we want to make it work. We want you to stay, but we'll work out a way that you can stay there and still work with us, And I love that so much, because it's like knowing yourself and stating your boundaries and your worth, right? And she was willing to walk away from that. And they valued her so much that they were like, we don't want you to go, and we will work out a way to keep you here and keep you happy as well. So it's, yet another example of like, when we value ourselves first, when we put ourselves first, when we really like know our boundaries and we communicate that in any type of work situation, like she was working in a traditional kind of environment in Europe, and they made it work. When you're valued by people, when they truly value you, they will find a way to make it work. And I think people respect a lot more when you know yourself well enough to like draw boundaries and say, this is what I need for my own happiness.
Yes.
And it inspires them to do the same for themselves. So we're all agents of change by just like doing this for ourselves.
Absolutely. Amen. I feel that so much with massage therapy. Yeah. The more I set boundaries with massage clients, the more they wanted to work with me, and the more I charged, and the stricter I was with my rules and cancellation policies, and ending on time, and taking care of myself and showing up like rested and radiant. It's like, then you actually have something to offer people. Then you have
they're like, whoa, this person's serious. They know themselves. They're taking care of themselves. They're really clearly communicating like what the expectations are, and and people respect that, because it's like, great, okay, I know when I can call this person, or I know like how long I have that I can cancel. It's all very clear, and it feels like I don't want to mess with this because I don't want to like lose my deposit or whatever, as opposed to like having nothing and then people canceling on you 5 minutes before, and you didn't communicate anything or set down any boundaries, and then there's all the resentment that builds up as part of that. So,
yeah.
So I'm curious, would you recommend doing this program to other people, and who do you think could benefit from it?
Oh gosh, so many people. Everyone really, in one way or another. However, I think it is particularly beneficial. I can speak for myself and people who are like me, who are creatives with a lot of ideas and a lot of projects that they want to implement, and who are overwhelmed and don't have the structure or, tasks broken down in a way that will lead to implementing those things. I think that can go for people who are, nomadic oftentimes, and lack structure in every sense of the term, right? So like, whether it's building a business or also just structuring the flow of your life and a business you want to grow, or artistic projects you're working on, if you're a traveler and nomadic, I think that it's incredibly invaluable to have a structure to move the energy of your life through, to get the most out of your energy and your days. And I think it's also incredibly a powerful program. Again, I'm speaking to myself for people who are in a point of transition. So I'm moving to a new place and starting a new life soon again, and having, you know, tools to, again, move all those variables through, streamline in like a graceful way. It's like invaluable. Yeah, I would say this program would definitely benefit those people, but really anyone. I mean, so many of us don't, everyone needs to learn to put nurturing first on their calendar, you know, but then also look at the hard stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, those are things that will expedite anyone's growth. But
Yeah.
I love the community too. I think that people who want to be doing this work in community, Unrestricted has a really vibrant community too. And just like, it's fun. It's fun. Like that's the, you know, it's a fun place to go hang out every week and like move towards your dreams and destiny. Like it's a cool zone to be in. Yeah.
That makes me really happy. Like I just love laughing and having fun, and like, you know,
Yeah.
I am just touched by like the people that get drawn into this world, and I love every single one of you, and like want to be friends
Oh, you're
with
so
it, and am
welcoming.
friends, you know, like it's just
Yeah.
it's awesome. Like it's
Like, come as you are. Like
yeah,
glittery
no,
boots and leotards, and like want to make $1 million this year and like wear a leotard and glittery boots doing it. Like, we'll like set you up. Like, we'll get it rolling. Like, that's the vibe around here, kind of.
yes, be yourself. I love it. Glittery boots, making $1 million. Hell yeah. And it's totally achievable too.
It is.
That's what we're working on. We're being like glitter ninjas. If you don't wear glitter, you're fine. You're welcome as well. But I really like the idea, and you know, and what you were talking about with nomadic people and stuff like that. There's a lot of digital nomads out there that need a structure that can work literally anywhere, no matter what's going on in the environment. And now a lot of people that are working from home are finding that they don't have a structure for how they deal with life, you know, like completely changed because it was a structure in getting ready, commuting, going to the office, having lunch at a specific time, et cetera, et cetera. Now a lot of people are faced with like, okay, now I have this whole new situation without a structure, and maybe I've got my kids at home because they can't go to school, or I don't know how to like take myself away from the desk or whatever. So what I love about this method is it gives you a blueprint that you can literally take anywhere in any situation, and it can be practiced like over and over and over again to the point you just become a ninja. It's like, right, wherever I arrive, I know exactly what I need to do. I feel super in control, you know, like that's the ultimate goal.
And I think what you touched on, so many people are transitioning within their workspace who used to be in a traditional workspace, who are now able to work from home and find themselves able to work from anywhere in the world. It's like, wow, they like, all they need is like to dream a little bit bigger and like have some actionable steps to make that happen now. Like, it's like everything's becoming possible. Super cool.
So I'm curious how much value you got from the program versus what you paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I can even put a value on starting the project that I started by the end of this program. So getting to a place where I started a group coaching program, like I don't think that I can even put a value on that. That's something that I didn't even think was possible before I started. You know, it's something I had always wanted to do, but I didn't, at a deep level, there was so much resistance that I couldn't even imagine. So to have done that in just over a month is incredible. And like if I would have known that that was the outcome, I would have paid 10 times what I paid even. Like it's such a high value to be able to take anything you want to do and put it into, like, it's like a mathematical formula, like anything you want to do and get results on the other end. It's like, how do you even put a number to that? Like, it's like your life dreams. It's so cool. It's so cool. And it's like, I'm really excited to use it over and over again. Like you're right. It is a skill set. And I didn't really understand that because I was unfamiliar with the skill set, but it's like a skill set that is, you have it for life. Like I get to use it now for other projects that I want to do. And I'm excited. Like I feel more positive and excited, even more so going into the next round, because I've seen how quickly things move, you know, when you're in that zone, when you're keeping, you know, in the productivity zone. It's so cool. So yeah, definitely recommend.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being candid and sharing your experience. I've loved working with you, and we've been working together for a long time, and it was brilliant to have you on the program and just see the growth and see you birth the project that you've been dreaming of for a really long time. I'm super touched that I got to be part of that in any way. And, you know, I think all of the skills were within you. You just needed to believe that, like, you could uncover them and that you could access them and you could use them, you know, like all of this stuff is within all of us. It's just a matter of giving ourselves permission to explore and start using them, because it's really scary when we realize how easy it is to manifest our dreams, to make our dreams come true, right? Like that's a scary thing. You've shown us, like, just in, you know, just over a month, it's like that dream that was like latent in the background but driving you crazy. It's accessible. Anything's accessible to you.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to keep going.
Yeah.
And to, you know, it's like an unrestricted, the community that you have is like a community that I want to stay connected to too. Like if you do like live meetups in Tulum and stuff, like it's just such a cool community, and I can't wait to see, you know, the community grow and to see everyone continue to, you know, create the structure in their lives that lets them just do whatever they want to do.
It's
cool.
Super exciting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so awesome to just see people launching their dreams and launching their projects, and all of these projects are going to impact the world in a really positive way. So I can't wait to see how you impact the world, and I can't wait to check in with you. We'll maybe check in with you in 6 months or a year and like see this like amazing community that you've created. That's just the beginning, the precipice, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for trusting me to go on this experience, and thank you for putting in the work for yourself. You've done amazing.
Yeah, the work, it works. If you work the work, it works. Yeah, and it's fun too. You make it so fun. Yeah, you make it really fun, Athena. So thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing.
My pleasure. All right, my lovely. I will see you soon.
All right.